I got a comment from one of these pro-blacks saying that, I didn't know who the enemies of your Afro-American Negro community were. And this guy went on to talk about the neo-Nazis, the skinheads, the Ku Klux Klan, and other white supremacist organizations. I can go on record in saying that these are not the enemies that the Afro-American Negro needs to worry about. When it comes down to the enemies of the Afro-American Negro community, we don't have to worry about your skinheads, your Ku Klux Klan, your neo Nazis, or any other white men behind the tree. Because if these guys were to come out, we would be able to easily identify these white men behind the tree and, cause a plan of action. But because your pro black is, he doesn't understand the subtle politics transpiring around him, he doesn't understand that the enemies he needs to worry about are the ones standing in front of him. And those Negroes he doesn't really see as enemies because your pro black, is part of the problem. And the people that the Negro community really needs to worry about, for the most part, are your Negro pastors, your white liberal politicians, your gang members, your dope dealers. These are the people, and your Negro women for the most part. These are the people you need to worry about because these are the people who are undermining the structures of your Afro American Negro community. All of these people are the ones who, make profit by off the chaos that make and the chaos and their chaos. They have a smooth world from the chaos of the Afro American Negro. As long as the Negro is in chaos, these people profit in some way, shape, or form. But your pro blacks won't see them as an enemy because, again, they also profit from the chaos in the Afro American community. A pro blacks world is smooth because when the black community is in chaos, because as long as it's in chaos, they have a platform to stand on and talk about an imaginary solution that they can sell to the public. They make their money off the misery of the Afro American Negro. But you can't explain this to the Negro because he thinks that these people all have his best interests at heart. He doesn't see how all of these people are enemies to the black community and enemies to the growth of the black community. I mean, for example, your Negro pastor, who is supposed to be the moral pillar of your African American community. This guy was a known snitch since slavery, and he was a known, con artist. And over the years, he has evolved into, a huckster who talks about, being the moral compass of the community, and giving a moral center to the community. But we all know by his fruits that he hasn't done much for the Afro American community. I mean, for example, in my own neighborhood, we have 7 churches in a 6 block radius, yet the neighborhood has Section 8 housing, foreign owned stores, and continuing poverty where children are born generation after generation out of wedlock to single mothers. If the pastor was, a moral center in the community, you would think this wouldn't be the case because this would be the fruit that he would produce. And this is not the case. This is why I say your pastor is an enemy of the Afro American Negro community because in order for his world to be smooth, he needs the chaos to go on in the community. And he participates in the chaos that goes on in your Negro community. I mean, he's one of the ones fornicating with all of these females out here, under the table. And he's the one letting people with illegitimate children come into church looking for, salvation and not practicing it at all, not practicing from the very Bible he preaches from. So that's why he's an enemy of the community. Now, the other enemy from the community is your white liberal politician. This is the guy who creates the policies that keep black people dysfunctional generation after generation. He's the guy who creates the welfare policies. He's the guy who creates the economic policies. And he's the guy who benefits the most from earmarks and other, government goodies from the top. And he gets voted into office every year. I mean, Negro votes straight down the Democratic ticket for his enemy. And what's even crazier is that this same Negro will go to the same party that was against him from day one looking for solutions. Who looks for a solution from their enemy? But the Negro. He's the only person on earth who does this. And he's looking for a solution to his poverty from the person who profits the most from his misery. This is the party that was for slavery. This was the party that created all these dysfunctional social programs. And again, your white liberal makes their money from the chaos. They have a smooth world from the chaos in the world of the Afro American Negroes. As long as the Negroes are shooting each other, killing each other, committing crimes, he profits by getting block grants, government programs sent through Congress, and all sorts of social programs. That's why he's an enemy of the Afro American Negro community, because he uses his political power to keep people economically oppressed while he profits off it. And the other enemy of your Afro American Negro community are your gang members and your dope dealers. Now, your pro black will sit there and say that these people have to do this because of so called white supremacy, but they don't see how the liberal policies that are created by the politicians that they support and endorse, lead to these gangs being formed and being organized. They don't see how these people are urban terrorists who terrorize African American communities and destroy economic bases so that foreigners can come in and exploit it. They don't see that. No, they don't see how these gangs are enemies to the safety of black communities, the safety of black families, and how they prevent black communities from being the best that they can be. I mean, let's look at every Afro American Negro community that is plagued by gangs. I mean, all you wind up with is an eroded tax base and continuing poverty because the area is not safe. So all the people move out, who have money move out of the community for the most part. And then that erodes the tax base for outsiders to come in. So you don't have a black tax base, a black economic base, or a black business base because that's been driven out by your gang members and your dope dealers. And because you don't have a tax base, guess who comes in? Your Arab store owners, your Korean store owners, and these same gang members who terrorize the community go out and spend money with those guys, make them rich, and then your community winds up with no way of being able to pay for roads, libraries, schools, and the things that matter because 98% of your money is going right out of your community and it's going out because of your gang members. And then these same people, dope dealers and gang members, sell poison to your very own people, killing off your best and brightest people. But to your pro black, these are not enemies. These are allies. These are people who can help you. And they make excuses for them. And the other enemy that your Negro doesn't want to talk about is your Afro American Negro woman. Now, this Afro American Negro woman, she's another architect in the destruction of your Afro American Negro community. In the late 60s and 70s, she sided with the feminist movement, sided with white liberal politicians to create the welfare state, and right now is raising your children to be just as dysfunctional as the previous generation because she's a teacher of culture and all she's teaching your kids is, a backwards way, dysfunctional way of thinking. But your Afro American Negro won't call her an enemy. No, he's too busy trying to get inside of her underpants to think about considering her as an enemy, who is out to destroy his long-term economic gain, long-term needs to make her economic benefit because she's the one who benefits quite a bit from all these social programs, these jobs that the white liberal gives out, and she controls the dollars in your Afro-American community, and she takes your money and gives it to everybody else and does not think about investing or spending it with black-owned businesses or with the black community overall. None of these people are interested in building anything. Then I'm going to talk about your pro-blacks. These are the people who say that they love black people, care about black people, and that black people, need to be empowered. They're the guys pumping the fist. But whenever you see these pro-blacks, you always see them with white women. So how is this guy an ally of black people if he's got a white woman? And if the woman is the first teacher of culture, what type of culture are his children learning? Again, total contradiction. But when we look at all these people, they will tell you that, the enemies we need to look out for are skinheads, neo Nazis, Klansmen, white men behind the tree. White men who have no real interest in engaging the black community because they don't need to engage the enemy. Negro. Negro is no threat to them because right now, Negro's greatest enemy is the Afro American Negro. Nobody needs to worry about the Negro because he's pretty much destroying himself. He's pretty much exterminating himself. There's no need to go into a race war with a bunch of Negroes because Negro is self-defeating, self-oppressing, self-control, self-destructive. No, there's no need to worry about him. He's pretty much gonna destroy himself. So all they have to do is sit back and wait for the Negro. And it's sadly, I mean, if these guys were such a menace to society, I look at it the big picture. Then why are hipsters moving into Negro neighborhoods? If this Negro had to worry about an enemy, again, the enemy was his own people. His own people undermined all of his own economic growth, all of his social growth, all of his political growth, and he's sitting there looking for white men behind the tree when he needs to be looking out for the Negroes standing in front of him. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.